This is the Patriots Drive Podcast.
We are all Patriots.
Where we discuss, analyze, and answer questions to all things happening in the NFL and with our New England Patriots. Now, here's your host, Cole Kelly.
Let's go!
Welcome in to another edition of the Patriots Drive Podcast. Today we got a couple different things on hand. We're going to be going over our season awards for the 2021 Patriots team, Offensive Player of the Year, MVP, all that good stuff. Also going to be reviewing our preseason predictions. We made predictions for the records and Mac Jones stats, interception leader, sack leader, all that good stuff. So we'll be going over all that different stuff and touching on some of the topics for things that the media has been talking about a lot right now. And one of the biggest things to start right off is the Bills and the Chiefs. I mean, two offensive powerhouses, and the Bills defense is pretty solid. They didn't really play that great this past week, but two really talented quarterbacks in Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, who played, one of the best divisional round games we've seen in a long time. It was very entertaining. Two went back and forth, caused a lot of controversy with the overtime rules, and stirred up a lot of things for Patriots fans talking about, can the Patriots compete? I mean, with a quarterback like Mac Jones, can they compete? And I guess it's a fair question. I don't know what your opinion on this is. I know what mine is, but what's your level of concern after seeing the performance that those two teams put on Sunday?
Yeah, it's definitely concerning. Highest viewed game. I mean, of in the past 10 years, I think it was 42 million average viewers for the game. You get 25 points in the last 2 minutes. I mean, just a shootout over 80 points. Might have been, 78. Thinking of it, but anyways, it there's concern to be made because Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes might be two of the best quarterbacks in the league, especially if Brady retires. I mean, the generation is switching. It's time for these guys to take over, and I see those guys battling out like Brady and Manning did for a long time, and that's always scary. But I definitely don't think that people should be riding ship off on the Patriots. We have a rookie quarterback. We have a young defense. Now that all this news is coming out that Bill handed it over to his assistants to call the games after the bye week, and maybe that explains some of the struggles and some of the reasons that we saw such bad defense and, couldn't get off the field at times. I don't think that there's any concern. I think that if you go 3 or 4 more years and the Patriots still have receiver issues, they're still not young at the linebacker position, maybe J.C. Jackson doesn't resign and they don't have a replacement for him, then it's time. But you're 1 year into a 3-4 year rebuild, and those teams are supposed to be at the top of the AFC. No one thought the Patriots would be at the top of the AFC this year, and maybe not even next year. Now, I think that next year they can be better than what they were this year and make a deeper playoff run, but they're not one of the top 3, 4, maybe even 5 teams in the AFC, especially with Joe Burrow emerging. Lamar Jackson can always do damage. There's teams in the AFC that are better than New England is right now, and I think that that's why we can't be concerned, is because no one expected us to be here right now. It's too early to say. Mac Jones had a great rookie year. He's only going to get better. Bill and the front office is going to build this team around him. Hopefully they go get a wide receiver one that compete with the Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Stephon Diggs, those guys in the AFC, and then New England can be right up there in 4 years. So it's definitely concerning to see them, especially see the Chiefs and the Bills, how well they played, because our defense was so bad. But the other thing is our defense isn't going to look remotely close to what it looked like this year. There's going to be new guys on the field. They're going to be younger. They're going to be faster. It's going to be more, they're going to be more physical, hopefully. So I don't have concern right away. I think that it was a fun game to watch. And you think in the back of your head as a Patriots fan, like, geez, the Patriots could never do this. Well, yeah, they can't do it right now, but who says they can't do it in 3 years? Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, both in their 3rd, 4th, 5th year. They just signed massive contract extensions. Their team's going to be in salary cap problems for the next couple of years with the way they are. So why Mac Jones is still on a rookie deal, I don't think that it's, impossible.
My concern is in the short term with this aspect of the game. And Josh Allen, he just signed a contract extension. Mahomes signed one, a year ago at this point. So like you just mentioned, the cap hits, I think that's one of the biggest things to take into consideration. Once you start paying guys big money, these elite quarterbacks big money, and they're taking up a big chunk of your cap, it's harder to build a team around them that's talented. And if you look around the league, a lot of these guys who are having success, especially in the AFC, Mahomes, Burrow, Josh Allen. These guys are all young guys who have very, very talented weapons around them because the team can afford it right now because their cap hit's not high. If you take Josh Allen or let's say Joe Burrow, you take Joe Burrow, put him on the Patriots right now. You take Mac Jones and put him on the Bengals. I think you're probably going to see a pretty similar version of the Bengals and a pretty similar version of the Patriots because I don't think Joe Burrow necessarily, without all those weapons, I mean, probably all three of his weapons, his top three weapons are probably better than any of our receivers. I mean, maybe you could say Kendrick Bourne or maybe Myers is better than their third best receiver, Higgins or Boyd, but I don't know. They're a lot of these quarterbacks have some really talented weapons or a lot of really talented players, and that's just something the Patriots don't have right now, and it's something that's missing. If you want to compete with these high-flying offenses, you got to get some weapons around you, and we'll talk about that more coming up, but I'm a little bit concerned because obviously these guys are talented. Obviously they're a type of quarterback that can create plays on their own. And even if they don't have the most talent around them, sometimes they can make plays with their legs and do different stuff. But also you got to think about what comes with that is stuff like Cam Newton. I mean, Cam Newton got hurt. He was an MVP candidate. He won MVP, went to the Super Bowl, doing all this stuff. He was thought of as the best player in the league for a few years. And all of a sudden injuries stacked up. He was running too much, this and that. Josh Allen's been running a lot, and he's got a Cam Newton type frame, except he can sling the ball a lot better than Cam Newton ever could. So you never know. Quarterbacks like that, they keep taking hits. He keeps running like this in the playoffs and towards the end of this regular season. Stuff adds up, and you never know how much of a toll that can take on a young guy's career. I know medicine's great nowadays, and they can handle things like this, but you never know the durability of these quarterbacks, even though he's a big guy, even though he's hurting cornerbacks when he runs into them. It's insane. The guy's talented, but I honestly think that the cap hit is going to be one of the things that's going to be biggest. I mean, Josh Allen, his cap hit this year was $10 million. The next season, it goes up to $16 million. After that, 40 million, 41, 51, 46, 40, 41. So, I mean, he's going to be in the 40s for the rest of his career after next year. So they have one more year of this window of Josh Allen on a fairly good deal. I mean, $16 million for Josh Allen is kind of ridiculous right now. Patrick Mahomes, this year his cap hit goes up from what it was this year was $7 million all the way up to $36 million. Then it goes to $46 million, 44, 46, 59 one year. These teams can't pay these guys forever and keep these great weapons around them. You're going to have holes somewhere. It's just not possible. You know what I mean? You can't keep all these talented players forever and these talented top tier quarterbacks. So after this next year, it's going to be, the Bills and the Chiefs are going to have to find some creative ways to maybe keep some of the players that they want or do some creative things with the cap where they're eventually down the road going to get screwed over by the cap. So one way or another, the Patriots window is just starting and those teams are starting to close. And not that I don't think they're not going to be in it for a while, because I think the Bills and Chiefs are going to be around for the next decade and be competitive and always be one of the final teams because of the level of talent at their quarterback position. Their quarterbacks can carry a lot of the weight, but I just think we got a window too. And I think if you put weapons around Mac Jones like Joe Burrow has, I don't see any reason why he can't be as good or just below Joe Burrow level.
Yeah, that's the comparison that I've been trying to give to people. Evan Lazar said it too. He tweeted about it a couple days ago. He said, if I'm a Patriots fan watching Joe Burrow, I'm thinking this is a very good comp for Mac Jones to reach. Burrow isn't the toolsy type like a Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, but has worked on his arm strength, is deadly accurate, and processes quickly. That's what's been winning people championships in football for the past 20 years. When you think of Brady, Manning, Breeze, Rivers never won a championship, but they were always competitive in the windows that he was there. And Mac Jones has a better offensive line than what Joe Burrow does. Joe Burrow was sacked 9 times in that game against Tennessee, and he still throws for over 300 yards, still wins the game there. Mac Jones is in a better situation health-wise. He didn't tear his ACL year one. He had a good rookie year. He got good experience behind a good offensive line. He has a running attack that can carry their own due to the good offensive line. You put a receiver or two around him, like you put around Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, it takes pressure not only off of Mac Jones, but off of the other receivers. And when you have a guy like Jamar Chase, defenses are forced to put more attention on him, whether it's, play more zone because you're scared of him going over the top or double coveraging them. And then it makes it easier for a Jacoby Myers, Kendrick Bourne to win their one-on-ones more consistently. And it opens up the field for everyone. So I have no doubt that Mac Jones can get to that level. Now, is he going to? we'll have to find out. I mean, that's an incredible year 2 jump that we saw from Joe Burrow this year, and what he's doing leading them to the AFC Championship game, getting their first, win in the playoffs in 30 years and road win in the playoffs in franchise history. Like he's doing incredible things. So if Mac Jones can get to that level, that's incredible for Patriots fans, but I don't see why it's not. Like, he's a pocket passer. He's smart. He makes pre-snap reads. He throws it accurately. He's not going to do too many bonehead plays where it's going to put our defense or the team in jeopardy. So I'm excited to see his year 2 development. I'm excited to see the offseason what New England does to help him have that year 2 leap.
Yeah, and I mean, Joe Burrow is a little bit more mobile. Maybe has a little bit better pocket awareness at some times, although the 9 sacks didn't look great, but that's on his offensive line more than him. And he has a little bit better of an arm. I mean, he can throw the ball a little bit harder. That's also part of his. I mean, he's in year 2. He clearly worked on his strength the offseason after his first year. You could see he was a lot bigger, and I honestly don't see why it's unrealistic to think that Mac Jones can make a Joe Burrow type leap. I mean, even if it's a little bit less than that, if Mac Jones is a little bit under the play of Joe Burrow right now with a weapon added, I think that's completely realistic. I really do. And I think it's I think it's tough to be too concerned yet because we don't know. I mean, that's the thing. We really don't know. And we're not going to know until he gets a true number 1 receiver and we get to find out. So I think if you add a number 1 receiver, I think this offense is going to be a lot better. I think it puts everybody back into the slot they're supposed to be, adds more depth if somebody gets injured, and just opens up more things for the tight ends, the slot receivers, Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers, these guys. And it makes defenses have to think a lot more, and it takes a lot of attention off the run game, off the blitzes, off trying to do different stuff with Mac Jones because they got something else to focus on, and they can't just put all their attention on the run game. That's our run game was that good this year and last year. And everybody was stacked in the box almost every game. That's just how they played because they know what are you guys going to do? You're not going to threaten us on the outside, really. There's no big play ability on this team. Nelson Aguilar, I guess, but he never really got rolling in the offense. Teams kind of took care of him, and they were like, all right, everything else is going to be underneath, and that's how you're going to play it. So teams knew what we're going to do. I think it opens up a whole nother dimension of this offense, puts everybody where they're supposed to be, opens up the run game, and makes things so much easier for Mac Jones as a rookie quarterback. Good offensive line and a number 1 receiver, and Mac's going to be rolling. I really, truly believe that.
The other thing that a lot of people don't take into this, and Andy Reid is a great offensive mind, so this might not play in for them, but the Bills and the Chiefs, both of their coordinators, offensively and defensively, are in the mix for head coaching jobs year in and year out. Eric Bieniemy in Kansas City probably should have gotten one last year. Same with Brian Daboll for the Bills. He's probably going to get one this year. Leslie Frazier might get one this year too. They're going to have coordinators coming in and out, and I don't know how much of a difference that makes, but Josh McDaniels doesn't seem interested in taking a head coaching job right now. Like, not saying he can't, but with how Patriots fans talk about him, they probably wouldn't mind him leaving, which I think would be crazy. But Bill Belichick's not leaving either. And we know that if he's calling the defense, we're always going to be in a good spot. So I don't know. Some things might be shaking up on both the offensive and defensive side, scheme wise and leadership wise on these teams. And we'll see how they respond. Brian Daboll and Eric Bieniemy are both great offensive coordinators, and they deserve to be head coaching jobs. But how does that affect both the Chiefs and the Bills? Talent-wise, it doesn't affect them at all. But we all know that a head coach or an offensive coordinator can make the world of difference because they're the ones calling in the plays. So it will be interesting to see if they take one of those jobs and how that affects either one of those teams in the long run or in the short run, who they promote, who they hire, and how, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, because that's been their OC their whole career. They haven't had to experience one. So when you're a young rookie quarterback like that and you're experiencing a new head or a new offensive coordinator change, it'll be interesting to see how they respond to, a semi-different system. I don't think most offensive coordinators are going to come in and change everything up, but new terminology, new ways of teaching, new ways of coaching. It's always different when you have someone else come into that role.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I'm pretty sure Daboll was hired maybe the same year that they got Diggs. I think it was pretty recently. I think he's been working with Josh Allen for a couple of years now, but you saw the jump. We touched on it last podcast. Joe Burrow, once he got Jamar Chase, ginormous jump. Josh Allen, once he got Stephon Diggs, jumped from a very average quarterback, maybe even below average, to all of a sudden he's in the MVP conversation. that's the kind of jump you can have as a quarterback when you get a true number one. It's just how it is. And I mean, you see the level Kirk Cousins is playing at with some of the receivers he has with Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. They got Dalvin Cook there. Kirk Cousins was PFF's like first to third highest rated quarterback for most of the year. I don't know if he dropped late in the year, but it's a quarterback's best friend when you get a good offensive line and you got some weapons. That's really what this team needs, especially in the AFC. In the NFC, you can get away with it sometimes. The Niners just won, scoring like 13 points against the Packers to move on to the NFC Championship game. Like, you can get away with that sometimes in the NFC, but the AFC is so stacked with some really young, talented quarterbacks and some tremendous offense and weapons and all this stuff. So you're not going to be able to hold down an offense like that forever on defense. You can stack your defense as much as you want. It's going to be tough. It's really going to be tough. At some point, you're going to have to score points, and we've seen it. The teams that are in the finals of this and the teams that are getting down to the end and have the best chance are teams that can score more than 30 points a game and who can hold their opponent under 30 points a game. Your defense doesn't have to be the best in the world. It's obviously will help, but if your defense can get a few stops and your offense can be consistent, you can be a contender in this league right now.
Yeah, and I was listening to this on my local radio station, going up to school today, and the future of the NFL, a lot of the quarterback controversies are in the NFC. The future of the NFL quarterback-wise is in the AFC. Throw in Mac Jones in there or not if you want. Still, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. I mean, those are five top quarterbacks right there. Most of the other, like Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, Tua, like they have established young quarterbacks that they can build on. The NFC is really where the question marks come in. Like, what's Jameis Winston going to be doing? What's the
Aaron
answer
Rodgers,
for Jimmy
Brady.
Garoppolo, Aaron Rodgers, Brady, right? Stafford, he'll be there. He's
Jimmy
one of
G.
the more established one. Yeah, Jimmy G. Hurts. I mean, I think he'll still be there, but there's always question marks around the Eagles quarterback issues. And Dak will be there for Dallas. Does Washington go a new route? Is Daniel Jones the answer for the Giants? There's a lot of quarterback issues in the NFC. In the AFC, it's pretty established. And I feel pretty dang good with the quarterback we landed on 15th overall. You just now got to build around him, and you got to, continue to protect him up front. You got to, and then you got to start getting these explosive receivers that can keep up with the Chiefs and the Bills, because that's really the thing. I mean, you saw two totally different games from the Packers and the Niners, and then the AFC version of that, which was the Bills and the Chiefs. I mean, it's low scoring, it's defense, and then on the AFC, it's explosive high offense when you're talking about the teams that you're trying to chase and get up there if you want to win the AFC. So, yeah, I'm interested to see. And obviously, we talk all about offense, but you got to continue to build that defense. One of our biggest things with Josh Allen, his running ability, and even Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes had a couple great scrambles in that game early.
Yeah.
And, talking about guarding Kelsey and guys like that over the middle, Dawson Knox, you got to get long, lengthy linebackers and maybe some hybrid safeties. I feel good with Duggar, but we got to get younger at the linebacker position. We got to have a backup for JC Jackson at some point whenever he departs. Hopefully he doesn't, but if he does, you got to have answers for that. You can't just disregard defense. The Chiefs and the Bills had the number one or the best defense in the league. And they had, everyone saw what happened, 42 points. They let them go 52 yards with 13 seconds. Like, defense is so critical. You still got to build around that, but you got to have more explosion on the offensive side of the ball if you're New England and you want to keep up with the Bills and the Chiefs of the AFC.
And another thing to think about is, I mean, they're two top studs on defense, Poyer and Hyde. Poyer is 30, Hyde is 31. You look at some of their free agents, not this year, but next year. Poyer's a free agent. Cole Beasley, he's currently 32. They have some guys that are also aging, so their window is shorter than I think some people think. And Cole Beasley, AJ Klein, Ed Oliver, Tremaine Edmonds, Dawson Knox, they got some free agents coming up, and some of these guys are going to have to be let go at some point based on their age and contracts. And you get these veterans of these high prices, and you continue to sign them, and you don't have a lot of young guys to fill their roles. It's going to get tough eventually. So the Bills and Chiefs are both going to have to draft well. The Chiefs have been drafting really well. I mean, they found their starting center, who's already apparently one of the best centers in the league. They drafted him this year in the maybe second round, Creed Humphrey, right in the second round, maybe.
Yep.
So if you continue to draft well and get young talent, I mean, the Bills have Gabriel Davis, who they drafted. I mean, we drafted our two tight ends, Ossie and Dalton Keene, above Gabriel Davis, apparently, last year or 2 years ago, whenever that was. So looks like they found a player in him. He can probably replace one of those guys. And I think it's going to be tough to keep everybody with the level that the quarterbacks are playing at, the amount of money they're getting paid. You can't keep everybody forever. So I feel confident that if we can get Mac a talented receiver and we can draft well, I don't see why there's any reason we can't compete and why Mac can't be a top 8 quarterback in the NFL very, very soon.
Yeah, and you're talking about, cap hits, and I mean, the Chiefs, Tyrann Mathieu, he's going to be a free agent this year. Orlando Brown's going to be a free agent this year. Melvin Ingram's going to be a free agent this year. Tre'Davious Ward, a couple offensive guys. Tyreek Hill's going to come up shortly where he's going to be a free agent. And when you go look at Kansas City's cap hit for 2023, which I'm looking at right now, Patrick Mahomes is taking up 19.5% of their cap hit. So almost 20%, almost a quarter of their cap hit. Then you got Frank Clark, Chris Jones, Joe Tooney, Travis Kelce, Harrison Butker. Oh, did anyone hear me mention Tyreek Hill? No. Did anyone mention me here list Orlando Brown, who's going to be a big time part on that tackle? So they have guys. Tyreek Hill, I just don't know how they re-sign him when he hits the free agency market. Unless they have some sort of magical way to
team-friendly deals
team-friendly deals. And I mean, if you're Tyreek Hill, you probably go for the money, especially if they win a Super Bowl this year and now you have 2 rings. So I don't know. These teams that like the Bills and the Chiefs, they're going to have a really hard time. You look at the Saints, they're like $71 million in the hole this year for the cap hit. Like at that point, you just have to.
That's why Sean Payton's out of there.
Yeah, exactly. At that point, you just got to start saying, okay, well, do we, not re-sign everyone and rebuild, or do we prioritize who we bring back? So it'll be interesting to see how they maneuver this cap hit. And New England's sitting in a decent spot. They're going to have to re-sign J.C. Jackson. And they're going to have other guys coming up, especially once the group of signees that we just had get their contracts are up. Aguilar at the end of next season, Hunter Henry, and 2 more, and Jonnu and them. But these guys are around for a while, and Mac's still on his rookie deal. You can build around Mac making, a couple million instead of 46 like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, for sure. Then this is a good question by Tanner. I'll have you answer first, and then I'll answer. With young QBs dominating the AFC, guys like Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Herbert, Lamar, etc., where do you see Mac's ceiling in ranking among that group of elite AFC quarterbacks?
Yeah, I already kind of answered this one. I think that it's on par with Joe Burrow. If you build around Mac Jones like the Bengals have done with Joe Burrow, I think that it's very easily. We already have a better offensive line, like we said. You just got to start getting those receivers that can create separation consistently and are explosive, like they have with Jamar Chase. And then you're seeing guys who have been career, wide receiver 3s and 4s like T. Higgins. And T. Higgins is a good young receiver, but Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, heck, CJ Uzama's even freaking making plays in the playoff games and stuff because of the way Jamar Chase spreads the field. So I think if you build this thing right and you get enough weapons around Mac Jones, especially with the run game we already have, I don't want to say he's going to be a Joe Burrow because that would be awesome and very hard for him to reach at the same time. But I think that is where you say his ceiling is at right now. Probably not a Mahomes or an Allen because he doesn't have the arm strength, but he's going to be able to torch defenses and pick them apart with the right weapons like Joe Burrow's been doing.
Yeah, for sure. And I agree with you there. Just like kind of we touched on a little bit earlier, I think he could have a very similar trajectory as Joe Burrow. If Mac works on his arm strength this offseason, they get him a number 1 receiver, this offense is going to be looking good. I mean, Joe Burrow also benefits from, obviously, we said the 3 weapons that he's got, along with the running back, Joe Mixon. He's a stud, too. I mean, he had a great year this year. I think something that not only more pocket passer quarterbacks, the Bradys of the world, the Brees, Mannings, any of those guys, they all benefit more Brady than anybody, I'd say, but from like a good 3rd down running back. Guy like James White, we really missed him this year. Brandon Bolden is not a super talented 3rd down passing running back, and I think Ramondre showed some strides, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield, create after the catch, stuff like that. Having a weapon, having a guy out of the backfield you can trust in the passing game, having a tight end, good offensive line, all this stuff I think is huge. And I don't think Mac Jones will ever be at the talent of Mahomes, ever be at the talent of Allen, Herbert, Lamar. He can't do the same things. I mean, it's so hard to compare Lamar Jackson and Mac Jones, because they're on the opposite spectrum of players. You know what I mean? So it's hard to compare them. Lamar won an MVP. I don't know if Mac will ever win an MVP, but I don't see why he can't be, like I just said, a top 10, top 8 quarterback in the NFL if he gets a little bit better weapons around him, improves his arm strength a little bit, and just continues to process. I mean, we've seen long-term success in the NFL happens up here in your head, and that's one of the biggest things that Mac Jones has that you can't always teach everybody. Not everybody is smart enough to be able to process as quickly as guys like Burrow, guys like Mac, Brady, some of these elite quarterbacks who've been in the league forever. Your mind is one of your biggest factors. And we've seen guys come around who are extremely talented, mobile quarterbacks. Cam Newton got hurt. He was done. His window was short. Russell Wilson, I mean, he went to the Super Bowl a couple times, and after that, hasn't gone back in 7-8 years now. There's another guy I'm blanking on, or a few years before that, but we've seen mobile quarterbacks quite often. Their window gets short, depending on if they get injured or what happens. I don't see. It's obviously better if you can have a quarterback that can make some of the plays that Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, Lamar, all those guys can make. But I think longevity is a lot easier for quarterbacks who are in the pocket, who can move enough. Mac can move plenty enough to play in the NFL. We saw him escape the pocket on third down, run for first downs, do all that stuff. He had like 130, 150 yards rushing. Not crazy. He uses his legs only when he needs to, but he can certainly play in the NFL. I think he can be a really, really good quarterback in the future. And I just think it's going to take some time. I think it's going to take getting him some true weapons. He's got bottom tier weapons in the NFL. I mean, there's only a few teams in the NFL that have worse weapons than the Patriots and worse weapons than Mac Jones. I think if you, like I said earlier, you flip Mac Jones onto some of these teams, you give Mac Jones Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, you give Mac Jones Stephon Diggs. I think Mac Jones and the Patriots offense would look a heck of a lot different, and I think it'd be in a very, very good way. He doesn't have the talent around him, and until we see that, it's hard to project his ceiling, but I don't see any reason why he can't get close to Burrow's level, and with his mind and his processing ability, I think there really is not, you can't really put that much of a ceiling on this kid, because I think he's going to continue to improve and process and just keep making the right decisions, and you can have success for a long time in this league.
Yeah, and talent-wise, I mean, what are we talking about when we're asking, like, what's his ceiling? Are we talking talent-wise, success? Because I think that he might have more success than a Justin Herbert in LA, where, you know, the Chargers, the franchise, maybe the Ravens too, where they're playing in with Joe Burrow. I mean, we're playing with Josh Allen, but I think that Mac is in such a good situation with Bill, the organization, that we know that they want to win. They want to get back on the winning track. The last year where they didn't make the playoffs, and this year where they got humiliated, like, this team's dedicated to winning. They want to get back on this track and stuff, and not saying that other teams aren't, but Herbert, I mean, Mike Williams is hitting free agency this year for him. Keenan Allen's getting up there in age. Lamar Jackson, you just talked about mobile quarterbacks, and, you know, his lack of running backs and receivers is tough. They got a little better with Rashad Bateman and Hollywood Brown, so they look like they're trending up. But I mean, Lamar was hurt the last 4 games this year and dealt with COVID issues, and COVID will get out of here soon. But I mean, we're already seeing him start to wear down and have some injuries and stuff and have a hard time playing a full season. So yeah, I think that success wise, he could be up there, because who knows if Josh Allen ever gets a Super Bowl. I mean, yeah, he's going to have a hell of a career because of the talent he has, but is he going to get a Super Bowl? We can't tell. Mahomes already has another Super Bowl. It looks like he might get one this year. Someone could beat him. I'm not saying that they're guaranteed a Super Bowl, because as we've seen, anything can happen from the divisional round. But success-wise, I could see Mac Jones being better than most of these guys on this list because of the organization he's in and the coach that he has, unless, you know, something dramatic happens and Bill's all of a sudden all of a sudden out, and then it's a different story. But the Patriots' future, with the way that Mac Jones can play and progress, I think that it's very bright. So I'm excited.
And that the other guy I was talking about was Aaron Rodgers. I mean, possibly, some people argue the most talented quarterback, tools wise, that the NFL's ever seen. Just some of the stuff he can do with his arm strength and his mobility and stuff like that. He won a Super Bowl in 2010. He hasn't won one in 10, 11 years now. You know what I mean? So some of these talented quarterbacks, it's not always guaranteed. It's tough to get back there. I mean, Brady was an extreme outlier. We saw Russell Wilson, Eli Manning, Joe Flacco, Peyton Manning, Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. Mahomes was the most recent mobile quarterback to win, 2019. Before that, it was Russell Wilson, 2013, then Aaron Rodgers. And I know the league is changing and it's more talented mobile quarterbacks now, but I don't know. I think the league is trending this way, obviously, because these guys can make out of script plays and you can't scheme it up sometimes. That's why Bill has always struggled, because he's great with the X's and O's when you can scheme it up. But when people start breaking scheme and running out of the pocket and it's just backyard football, that's tough to guard sometimes. So I don't know. I think there's no reason Mac Jones can't have just as much success or more than some of these guys, because I think with the way he plays football, you're less prone to injury. You're more prone to playing longer. You're smart with your head, your decision making, all that stuff. He just continues to refine his tools. If his arm strength gets a little bit better and he gets a weapon, I don't think there's much of a ceiling you could put on this kid and this team. I really think we're going to be in good hands. I don't trust the Patriots to go get a number one receiver. That's my biggest concern. My biggest concern is not Mac Jones. It's really not. It's what they do to put things around him, because I feel like I'm just worried they're going to do the same thing they did with Brady and rely on Mac to carry this team, and it's going to look bad on Mac. But I don't think Mac Jones is going to be the problem for us here going forward.
No, and I don't ever think that Mac Jones is going to have the opportunity to make 40 plus million a year like you're seeing with Mahomes, Allen, and Dak. And that's not saying that you have to be making that much to have a Super Bowl.
That's not a bad thing necessarily.
Yeah. It's not a bad thing. Like, you look at Derek Carr, he's making 25 million right now. Jimmy G's 27, like right in that range. That's still 20 million less than what the top dogs, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, are making. That's still good money. I mean, for the average Joe Smo, any seven-digit number is good money, but that's still good money for a quarterback, and you can still go out there and work a team around him. You can go get, an extra offensive lineman and maybe a corner or something, whatever. You can fill that extra 20 million that you're not using on the quarterback in a lot of different ways to build this team. So I just, talent-wise, I don't see him being a $35-40 million a year quarterback unless he makes this massive jump like we're seeing and stuff, or this massive jump like we wish that we can see. But as of right now, I think that come 4 years down the road, when it's time to sign off of his rookie deal, it's more in the $25-30 million range instead of the $35-40 million range.
Yeah, and you can do a lot more, like you said, with that structure-wise. And that's one of the biggest reasons why Brady and the Patriots had success, is because Brady took a contract that was below what his level of play was. And he wasn't making the crazy plays that the entire league is, I don't know how to say this. I'm not going to say it because I don't have a child-friendly way of saying this, but that the entire media is getting very excited about with Mahomes and Josh Allen and these guys. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. If you can play consistent, good football, you're good with your head, your mind, and you know how to process defenses and make the throws on time when you need to make them, you can have tremendous success in this league. Obviously, sometimes a play breaks down and things need to happen, but more often than not, if you can be a consistent football player, that's what Belichick and the Patriots want. If you're consistent day in and day out, which Mac Jones, Bill Belichick said he's one of their most consistent players. So I just think if he can do that day in and day out and continue to improve and progress and learn the system, read defenses and all that stuff, I think we're going to be absolutely fine with this kid. I think he can win a couple Super Bowls, hopefully.
For sure. Well, do you want to get into the awards and, spend the last couple minutes talking about the AFC NFC championship game, and then our awards that we're giving out for the end of the year, and then how we did on our preseason awards? Where do you want to start? Do you want to start on the awards that we picked?
Yeah, we can do that. We'll do the awards, then we'll go over our preseason stuff, and then we'll finish with the picks for this weekend.
All right. Well, we have 8 awards. So MVP, Rookie of the Year, or MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year,
Offensive Player of the Year,
Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, or I already said that, sorry.
Special
Teamer of the Year, Underrated Player of the Year, Best Offensive Lineman. So those are the 8 right there. So Let's start off with the big one. Or should we go reverse? Should we start with like the smaller awards and then get up to the MVP?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So,
okay.
So
all right. Well, let's start. The most underrated player of the year. Me and Cole both agreed on this. Now, there's a couple. Duggar and Phillips have insanely close stats, and I didn't realize that until Cole told me. They both had 92 tackles, 4 interceptions. But we saw this year the way that New England values Adrian Phillips. They just gave him a contract extension. Happy to have him as the Patriots, but I think that Adrian Phillips filling kind of that Patrick Chung role. He's so underrated on the defensive side, and he put in a career year this year.
Yeah, I mean, both those guys are underrated, so this one was kind of tough. I mean, I feel like a lot of people see Duggar more based on his speed of the game that he plays at, and he did make a big jump from year 1 to year 2. But AP is he's a really talented football player. He's always doing the right thing at the right time in the right spot. He can cover tight ends. He's a versatile player. He'll get in the box. He's not afraid to hit somebody. I really like Adrian Phillips a lot, and I think Belichick does too. He had really high praise of what Phillips can do, and I just think not enough people talk about him and his level of play. I didn't expect much from him when we got him from the Chargers last year. Last year he was great. I mean, I'd say he was probably one of our best underrated players last year as well. And this year he kind of did the same thing, maybe even a little bit better. And people don't really give him the credit he deserves. So I thought he had a tremendous year. I think he's just going to keep getting better the more comfortable he gets in this system. And I'm excited to see what he can continue to do for us.
Yeah, and thinking of, McCourty possibly leaving, getting him and Duggar both there, both at the safety position, and getting them valuable reps the last 2 years where if McCourty were to leave, these guys are experienced leaders and players on the field in the system. So that's always good to have. Moving on, the best offensive lineman. I feel like there were a lot of good. I mean, we had a very good offensive line this year when healthy. We gave it to Shaq Mason, probably one of the most consistent, as you see on the screen. Only gave up 2 sacks all year, 3 quarterback hits. He only gave up 16 total pressures. Yep, 11 of them were hurries. Other than Ted Karras, that's the least on the Patriots. Ted Karras had 13 total pressures on the year. But Shaq Mason, what he does in the run, less games. But what he does in the run and the pass, tremendous. Big bodied there, both pull-in and zone schemes. He's been a staple on the offensive line. And honestly, we talked about it too. David Andrews, he's always, leadership-wise and at the center position, he's a huge offensive lineman to have on this Patriots team. But Shaq Mason was great for us this year with those numbers right there. Only 2 sacks on a rookie quarterback can't be overlooked.
Ted Karras, Shaq Mason, and David Andrews all had a 2.9% pressure rate allowed. So they all played really well. For me, it was between Shaq Mason and David Andrews. I thought they both played tremendous. I think Shaq Mason just like you touched on in the run game, in the pass game, he's a beast. When him and Trent were lined up next to each other, they could move people when they were both playing well. Sometimes Trent had his off games, but overall the offensive line, once they got Trent back and built some chemistry, they played really well this year. So I think Shaq Mason has been one of the more. I mean, he could have gone as the underrated Patriot because I don't think enough people give him attention. He's a really talented guy, and he's been a staple of his offense for years now.
Yep, Boston headline. What's up? Welcome in. Yeah, and the offensive line, like as a whole unit when healthy, was great. Ted Karras for us not expecting him to be a starter. The numbers that he put up and the role that he filled was great. Let's move on. Our defensive rookie of the year. This one's pretty easy, and you can see the offensive rookie of the year right here too. But Christian Barmore, 2 sacks, 46 tackles. I can think off the top of my head probably 5 sacks that he missed this year. He could have easily have had 5+ sacks this year. The pass rush win rate that he had was bonkers. I think it was only second behind Micah Parsons. And he needs to still get a little bit better and more consistent in the run game. But this kid has a bright future too. A lot of the talk has been on Mac Jones for the rookie year that he had, but Christian Barmore can be an interior force. You saw after the game, was it Mitchell Morse or one of the Bills offensive linemen came up and, greeted Christian Barmore, gave him a hug and, whispered in his ear and, told him how good of a player he was as a rookie. So I'm excited to see this young man on the defensive side continue to wreak havoc on the inside.
For sure. I mean, he had 48 total pressures, 8 QB hits, 38 hurries, 2 sacks, 25 stops. Like you say, 46 tackles. He was a beast. I mean, for the second round, trading up to get him, I think it was a huge home run of a pick right there. He had a tremendous year, and this one was an easy one for sure. Just as easy probably as the offensive rookie of the year, maybe even easier. Barmore had a great year. He's a stud. He still needs to work on his run game, stopping ability a little bit, and maybe finishing. He, like you said, he got in the backfield quite a bit, just barely missed some of these QBs, and he'll get there. He'll get there. I think it seems like he has a good work ethic, good mindset, and I think he's going to be a big time player in this defense for years to come. This is a great pick, and he had a really, really solid year for sure.
Yeah, for people slotting him to New England at 15 in certain mock drafts, and us being able to trade up and get him was big time. So the other guy that I was looking when New England made the trade in the second round, I thought that they were going to go after JOK, who went to Cleveland. I thought he fell pretty far, and he had a great year too. But I think that having an interior pass rusher that can wreak havoc, opposite of Matt Judon, is probably something that you can't find in many drafts. So I think they hit the hammer on the nail on the head with this pick in the second round. So that was big time. And then offensive rookie of the year, really no doubt here. The only other one would be Ramondre Stevenson. And when you have Matt
Jones,
a great
year too,
and he did, yeah. But when you're completing almost 70% of your passes as a rookie, almost set a record, 3,800 yards, 22 touchdowns, and leading a team to the playoffs after going 7-9 last year was awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I think he was PFF's 10th graded quarterback as a rookie with the weapons he has. I think that's what makes it so impressive. Like everybody was impressed with what Mac did this year, but I think people don't take into account enough the weapons that he has like at his disposal. People are raving over Joe Burrow, and look at the weapons he has though. It's a lot easier to have success when you got those weapons than you got the weapons that we have here. We've touched on it obviously this episode, but I really think that's something this team needs, and I can't wait to see what Mac Jones does if he gets these weapons, because I think the kid's going to be great. I really do. If he continues to do the things he's doing, he has a great mindset. He's a perfect Patriot, fits the scheme perfectly, and the kid's smart. If he can just get some talent around him and some weapons, I think this offense is going to be great. And you got to also take into consideration, there's no possible way that Jonnu Smith can be any worse than he was last year. So it's only up from here. You know what I mean? He maybe won't live up to the contract, but there's no way he can be worse than this year. So he's got to have at least a little bit more production. So if he factors in, we get a number one receiver. I think things are going to be looking out for this offense for sure.
Yeah. Boston headline says Barmore stayed on the field after the game like Diggs did in the AFC Championship game versus the Chiefs. Yes.
Hopefully we don't have the same result.
Yes. That's hopefully we don't wait a year to lose to him again. But
yes.
He was there. So moving on, special teams player of the year. I mean, who else do you give it to here? I mean, Nick Folk, Mr. Consistent, 36 field goals, 42 PATs, 150 points on the year. I mean, what we struggled with in 2020 and 2019, obviously, was consistency at that position and leaving points on the board. And yeah, it sucks to get field goals in the red zone, but it's even sucks worse to get 0 points in the red zone or in the other team field position. So having Nick Folk on the team this year and having him be so good was, taking us back to the Vinatieri, Gostkowski days. So that was awesome.
Yeah. And one guy who disappointed a little bit was Jake Bailey. I mean, I think he would have been last year. He was so good last year. I think he probably would have been our MVP last year if we did this last year. But he kind of was disappointing this year. This is the season awards show, so we're trying to be positive. But that was one guy that I expected to probably be in the conversation for this, and he just didn't have the same year that he did last year this season. So hopefully he steps it up next year, and hopefully we get Nick Folk back because he's been Mr. Consistent. He was great this year. He was good last year. He's a guy we can rely on, and it's underrated to have a kicker you can rely on. I mean, think about it. The playoffs this past weekend, 3 out of 4 of the games were ended by a game-winning field goal. You need a good kicker if you want to make it far in this league, and that's kind of an underrated aspect. So I'm glad we got Nick Folk. I think we can trust him in big moments.
Yeah, and even Kansas City wouldn't be in the AFC Championship game without their kicker. You do all that work on offense.
Even though he missed one and the extra point, but he made the one when it counted. It was more dramatic, and then they went and scored the touchdown. But yep.
So I mean, the kickers they can be the most hated player on the field or the most loved player on the field. So it's always good to have a reliable one. Defensive player of the year. I mean, we debated Judon here because of his sack number, but he disappeared the last 5 games of the year, and it was very disappointing. So J.C. Jackson here, and he had a rough game against Diggs, but 8 interceptions, second in the league, only behind Trayvon Diggs. He allowed 52.4% completion percentage on him, 23 passes defended, 8 tackles. I think he had 2. Did he have 2 pick sixes, or was it just the Carolina one?
I think it was just Carolina because he had a few against a couple picks against the Jets. The one against Atlanta would have been a pick six, but he stepped out. I think it was just that one. I don't know if I can find if there's touchdowns on here. Okay.
So PFF says he has 3. He had 3 touchdowns this year. I didn't think it was that many.
I don't think it says 1 touchdown on an interception here on ESPN for JC Jackson.
Okay, so I don't know what PFF. So
Is that
but
career?
Anyways, maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at something wrong. But highest graded man coverage guy in the NFL was JC Jackson, and second team All Pro. So that was a pretty easy pick for me, JC Jackson for Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, no, JC was great. He was kind of an easy one, especially with Judon falling off. I know JC wasn't great necessarily every game all year, but he was good. I mean, it's hard to have the guy who's second in the NFL in picks not having him as your Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, he was great. He was good yet again.
For sure. Well, that takes us to our last 2 awards. We threw one of these on the our stories because there was a lot of good guys, and it's the Offensive Player of the Year one. Kendrick Bourne, very deserving. Same with Jacoby Myers and Hunter Henry. But we put this on the story. We let you guys vote for it, and Kendrick Bourne won by a long shot. He won by 20 or so votes on mine, and then over 200 on Cole's. So this was pretty obvious for you guys. But Kendrick Bourne coming in as a free agent this year, setting career highs in a lot of categories: 55 receptions, 800 yards, 5 touchdowns. Almost got in a couple times running the ball too, and the versatility he showed with fly sweeps and run after the catch. I think that he has a bright future, especially if you go get that wide receiver one that can take a little bit of stress off of him.
Yeah, KB had a great year, and I think he's also a fan favorite. That might factor into why he won by so many votes, but that was one thing. Jacoby Myers was also on our voting list, and not a lot of people voted for him, but Jacoby had 66 more receiving yards. He had 3 less touchdowns. He had 30 more catches, though. So Kendrick Bourne averaged 14.5 yards per catch. Jacoby Myers averaged 10.4. And also, like you just mentioned, Kendrick Bourne, he had 125 yards rushing, averaged 10.4 yards per carry. No touchdowns rushing, but he made some big plays this year, and I think he was one of our biggest clutch guys. I think Jacoby was huge on third down. He had some big catches for sure. I mean, he had the diving one in the Bills game, the last Bills, not the playoff one, but the one before that, or Miami. And then he had one against Cleveland. That was a great catch. He had a lot of great catches this year. He really did. Jacoby had a great year, but Kendrick Bourne also made some really great plays. Yards after the catch. He was a yak machine, something that I didn't really expect from him. And I think it was great to see. I mean, I think he's part of the reason that our offensive weapons had the year we had and Mac had the year he had, is because he had somebody at least. It wasn't great. It was better than we expected, though, out of KB and Jacoby and these guys. Jacoby had a good year. He's Mr. Reliable, but not a great yak guy. Kendrick Bourne, like we touched on, the guys who can create after the catch are some of the most valuable in the league, and KB really stepped up this year.
And he had a passing touchdown versus the Jets. So
true. Did Jacoby have one too? He had one to somebody, no?
Did he? I don't know if it was a touchdown, but I do remember him.
Maybe he had one to Aguilar, but
yeah. And I don't remember who Jacoby threw it to, but I don't think it was a touchdown. But
Jacoby Myers, 2 for 2 this year, 45 yards, no touchdowns. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know who.
And then our last one, MVP right here. The reason he's not Offensive Player of the Year or in the running is because he was the MVP. Damien Harris, 202 yards, 70 yards shy of 1,000-yard season, 15 touchdowns. That's good for third of all running backs, but that's total touchdowns. He had 15 on the year, obviously, and then he was the 3rd highest graded running back according to PFFs. A workhorse back. I would have loved to have seen him get 1,000-yard season. And the thing that was really impressive about him this year is he had pretty good yards after contact numbers. Getting hit and staying, keeping his feet alive, and creating yards after that. We saw the big run against the Jets when he pretty much went beast mode and carried the whole team on his back. So hopefully that him and both Ramondre can continue to break out going into next year. That will take a lot more stress off of Mac also.
Also, he missed 2 games. That's one thing too. He would have had 1,000 yards probably, and he would have probably led the league in touchdowns. Damien had a great year, MVP. That running game really helped balance our offense out, helped out the passing game, opened things up for guys. Dame had a good year. He also had, let's see, 132 yards receiving, no touchdowns, but 12 catches. Oh no, 18 catches for 132 yards receiving. So he had a good year. He almost had more receiving yards than N'Keal Harry, which is sad. He probably would have if N'Keal didn't have that one big catch. But yeah, Damian Harris had a great year. Certainly deserving of the MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, all that good stuff. He's a good back. I think we're lucky to have him. He's a hard, tough runner. If he can stay healthy, he's gonna be a good back in this league for some time.
Yeah, he will be. The running style he has is a little concerning at times. I feel like he inflicts a lot of pain on runners, but he runs so hard
Also
that sometimes
himself.
it hurts him. Yeah, also
But
himself.
he's a tough dude too. Like
Yeah.
you can tell he plays through things and he wants to be out there. I like the competitive edge he has. I like the relationship him and Mac have. I'm really excited about the future of this team and some of the young players we have, some of the young talent. These guys want to fight, and that's good to see. Hopefully next year we can put it together and keep it throughout a whole year. But we've certainly got some talent.
For sure. Well, let's discuss our preseason awards. So we did preseason predictions and not awards, just predictions on stats and stuff. And Cole has those pulled up. So let's hear some of them and maybe react to some of our picks.
Yeah. So first off, record prediction. I had 10-7. You had 11-6. So we were pretty much both right on the money there. I think one thing that we kind of talked about the whole year was perspective. And if you would have told me this team would start 2-4, have the struggles they would, and end the year like they did, I wouldn't have said we would have been 10-7 and had a playoff berth and all that stuff. So I think we were confident in this team and the ability we had. But I think I don't want to speak for you, but I personally had higher aspirations for some of the guys that we had signed, and I figured we'd be 10-7. In that 10-7, 11-6 range because of some of the players that we signed and guys like Jonnu having a bigger role, Aguilar, stuff like that. So if you would have told me that Jonnu would have been a bust of a signing, Nelson Aguilar would have been basically just a decoy, and the team would have had the struggles they had early and late, I wouldn't have thought this team was going to be where it ended up. So I think I'm pretty happy with our record predictions to start.
Yeah, I mean, if you just said 10-7, you're in the playoffs. A lot of Patriots fans would have been happy at the start of the year, especially with 7-9 last year. So I agree.
Sure.
What's after that?
So after that, we did Mac Jones stats, our predictions for Mac stats to begin the year. I had Mac going for 3,100 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. You had him going for 2,900 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 6 picks. So I think we were both off on the interceptions. Mac Jones finished with 3,800 yards, 22 touchdowns. So we were right on with the touchdowns pretty much, and 13 picks. So he had a few more interceptions than we both expected. But to kind of go off my point as well, I think personally I didn't factor in enough of, hey, he's a rookie. Sometimes late in games, you're going to throw a ball up. It's going to get picked. It's going to get tipped and picked, whatever. Because he had a lot. I mean, Jonnu in the Saints game threw one for a pick six, basically, to Jenkins. So stuff like that happens. And also, I thought the weapons would be a little bit better than they were this year. So I think that has plays a factor in it as well. But Mac Jones exceeded both of our expectations for what we predicted, at least, except for the interceptions.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. He yards wise too, and and they're bound to happen with interceptions, but the yards and touchdowns and completion percentage, obviously, I mean, they were great and more than what any of us could have expected. So
yeah, absolutely. And then the next one we had was leading wide receiver in yards. So I had Jacoby Myers. I had Jacoby. You had Nelson Aguilar, which we both had our mistakes on here. Aguilar did not have the year we expected. I think at that point we were both going back and forth on that one. And I don't think either of us predicted that Nelson Aguilar would have the year he had, but he didn't end up being anywhere, unfortunately, anywhere close to where we both expected him to be.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll move on from that one.
Right.
Nothing, no comment. I plead the fifth.
All right. Next one we had. Hey, you'll like this one. You were spot on this one. leader in receiving touchdowns. So Jace said Hunter Henry, which he was. He had 9 touchdowns.
Wait,
I said
did you? Oh, you said James White. I thought you said
James
Johnny
White.
Smith. Yeah, James
No,
White.
no.
That's James White might have been up there. I mean, that sucks to say you got that one wrong because what
he only played 2 games.
Did he have a touchdown through his games?
Let's see.
He had nope, he didn't. Oh, he had a rushing touchdown. So he had 1 rushing touchdown. So no receiving ones, but yeah, he could have been up there. I mean, we all know his impact in the passing game, so he definitely could have been up there, and it would have helped to have him on the field. You think what? Brandon Bolden had 2 receiving touchdowns. You think James White gets more than that, but I don't know if he gets to the 9 that Hunter Henry has. But he would have. I don't
think he gets to the 9, but and my thought process on that was kind of a more underrated pick of Mac Jones having a security blanket. We saw Cam Newton didn't hit James White. He had a tough year with James White. I just thought Mac was going to have better ball placement and do the things he did with like Brandon Bolden and Ramondre with James White. And I think James White is on another level than those guys for Yak, and my money was on Edelman and stuff like that. So I thought James White would have a little bit of a, I mean, it's hard to say because we have no idea how he would have played. He only played the 2 games and got hurt early in the 3rd. So I'm not mad about that pick. I still think he would have had a good year. I don't think he would have had 9 touchdowns or more like Hunter Henry did, but I think he would have been a bigger factor on our red zone offense for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Gabe, I thought that you would have went with like Amendola or someone or N'Keal Harry. Like, where's the faith
Ryan
in
Izzo.
N'Keal Harry? Yeah,
Ryan Izzo. I mean,
what
come
the
on,
heck?
Gabe.
Why didn't you put Izzo? Yeah,
no,
this is
nobody.
true. I don't think anyone expected John to only have 1 single touchdown. Nope,
not a single person. That was pretty surprising.
I expected him to have 0, so it was actually a surprise for me.
And here's one we both nailed. Leader in rushing touchdowns, Damian Harris. There we go. We both got that one right.
I mean, was there really another candidate unless Mac Jones QB snuck it in a crap ton of times?
Not really. That was an easy one, but hey, we gotta get one right. So we'll All
go.
right. So this one we both don't really want to talk about. Pre-Izzo trade. Well, you didn't mention that, Gabe. I think you're starting to forget about Izzo. You don't show the same love you used to with him. He's starting to wear off on you.
It's crazy how quickly once they lose, how quickly he turns.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
The Titans lose, and Gabe is like, Ryan Izzo, who he doesn't even care anymore. It's kind of unbelievable to be honest, but
yeah,
it's all right. He's not showing Izzo the respect he deserves.
Yeah.
Oops.
What a
pre-Izzo trade era. I know that's really where the organization turned around. It's unfortunate, but maybe he can. Maybe we can trade Izzo for Jonnu Smith straight up and get back the guy who brought this organization so much success.
Maybe we can put a statue out front of him with Tom Brady once Brady retires.
I don't even think Brady needs to be the statue. Probably just Izzo, right? Probably just Izzo and Nike. We'll have those 2 up there. Statue together. But
for sure.
Next one we had was the leader in sacks. I don't really want to talk about this one. I don't know where you had Josh Uche. I don't know where you got that one from, but
you had him too, you liar.
We both had Josh Uche. This was after training camp. He had a phenomenal camp. He was one of the most dominant guys on our defense. I mean, reporters and everybody's going crazy about how much he was winning against our offensive line, and he was just flying off the edge, and he was just didn't show up, and that's something that people had concerns about at Michigan. Uche was the same. He would look like Lawrence Taylor in the preseason and in training camp, and then during the regular season, he looks like Chase Winovich. So that's kind of how it is, and that was definitely a swing and miss by both of us. But I think I remember we both said Matt Judon's going to get a lot of attention, and Uche will feast on the other side, and that's kind of just not at all what happened. Obviously,
I mean, he only played 12 games, so he was what? Now I'm drawing a blank. 5 short of everyone else, and he still was tied for 3rd in sacks on the team behind Judon and Van Noy, and then he was tied with he was tied with Dietrich Wise for 3. So that's where I'm reading it. Maybe you have different stats.
Yeah, 3 sacks. Yep.
And is that tied for 3rd on the team that you're seeing?
Van Noy had 5.
Yep. Judon had 12 and a half, and Wise had 3.
Yeah, tied for 3rd.
So we weren't far off, but that sucks that tied for 3rd is that's what you like to see. You'd still like to have Matt Judon up there at 12 and a half sacks, but you need to have these other guys Van Noy at 5 there, but you got to have a couple other guys up past 5. Barmore could have been up there. If Josh Uche, played a little more games, maybe he's up there. And then you lose a little production from Dante Hightower, who's had a couple sacks, big time sacks in his career. So
Also,
I don't think it was a bad pick, but yeah, it sucks.
If we put snaps into consideration, I think that changes things significantly too. He played 12 games, but how many snaps? Not even close to any of the other guys, I guarantee. So
yeah,
I'm sure we can maybe look that up. But
I'll look it up.
That was a swing and a miss pick from both of us. But next one we had was leader in intercept. Actually, do you want to answer this? Do you think Uche was fighting an injury this season?
Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, I think that if he was fighting an injury, it makes sense. And if he wasn't, then I'm, a little concerned with what his development was, because like you said, he had such a good camp and everyone was so high for him. And then he comes into the season and he really was a no-show. So I hope that the injury thing is something that is legitimate and he was fighting an injury and, he has an offseason to prepare, has another good camp, and then can come out and contribute again. But right now his career path is kind of looking scary, similar to Winovich.
Yeah.
And they're both Michigan guys.
Two
Those
Michigan
Michigan
kids.
guys ain't never done nothing for the Patriots.
I saw a Michigan edge player drafted to us in a mock in the first round this year. I said, no chance. I'm not taking another.
Was it David Ajabo?
Yeah, Ajabo or whatever. Yeah. So I was like, I haven't even watched any of his tape. I haven't watched a single snap of him, but I'm like, no, I'm staying away from the Michigan pass rushers. They have not worked out here. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Just the speed guys who are just purely pass rushers. Belichick doesn't clearly love in this system and doesn't trust him to set the edge and do that different stuff. That's why he loves Van Noy, because he can rush the passer when he needs to, but he sets the edge most of the time and he does a pretty solid job at that. So I don't know. It's swing and a miss from us, I guess. But have we ever entered a new cycle where we drafted mid-round Michigan linebackers who got too hyped up and eventually become a bust? Yeah, it seems like an every year thing.
Hopefully Cameron McGrone doesn't follow that too.
Yeah, well, he's more,
even though he's not
more
an edge
linebacker
rusher
than edge. Yeah. Maybe he'll break the mold a little bit of the front seven Michigan players. I hope. It is absolutely time.
We'll stick to offensive Michigan players. They seem to bring a lot of success to New England.
Absolutely, exactly. And it's getting pretty close to the Michigan experiment being a failure. But we got one more player, Cameron McGrone, and we'll see what he does next year. It's our last chance.
Hey,
after that,
Michael Owinu. There you go. There's my offensive thing. The offensive
right.
Michigan players are ballers.
That's true, but that was in the 6th round. And Michigan players in the 2nd, 3rd round is just. I'm telling you, these Michigan players in the 6th round, we got to get one every year because they're going to be studs.
6th round Michigan player, and it's guaranteed to be a stud. That we cracked the code.
That's where we need to draft wide receivers, because that's how we can draft the receiver this year. 6th round Michigan wide receiver. I don't care who it is, draft him. That's going to be the breakout player.
I don't even know if there's a Michigan receiver in the draft. I'm scrolling through the big board. I don't think that there's one. Oh no, we're screwed. We're never going to get that wide receiver one then.
Next year, a Michigan receiver is going to come out, and we're going to find one.
Yes.
No, but
so Josh Uche had he had 161 pass rush snaps this year. That's 7th most on the team behind, and Matt Judon was the most with 430. So he had about 20%, or he had about 20% of the pass rush snaps that Matt Judon had. So yeah.
So I mean, you time those three, you multiply those 3 sacks by 5, which would be equal to Judon's percentage of rushes. That gets him to what do you have 3? So he'd be at 15. He would have 15 sacks. Defensive player of the year conversation right there.
Quick math. That's what we'll just pencil him in for that. If he had that many pass rush snaps, he would have had 15 sacks. So that's putting the league on notice.
That's my take on it. That's what I'm going to go with.
Yes.
Interceptions. I had J.C. Jackson. You had Adrian Phillips. Both good picks. This was like, I remember talking about it when we did the podcast. The Adrian Phillips pick was like my James White pick for you. It was like more of an underrated, less obvious pick. JC was the obvious pick. That's what I went with. JC had 8 picks. Adrian Phillips had 4 along with Kyle Duggar. So I think AP was a good underrated pick by you. I think you did a good job on that one.
Yes.
After that, I think that's it. That's all we got.
That's all we had for the preseason picks.
We did pretty good. I'm most impressed with our Mac Jones projections. He had 22 touchdowns. I predicted 22. You predicted 23. You're both basically spot on. Yards, he had 700 more yards than I predicted, and he had 900 more yards than you predicted. So he beat us in the yard totals, but interceptions, we struggle a little bit. But I think overall, I'm happy with our predictions. Record-wise, we were both pretty much spot on. Same with Mac Jones, touchdowns and everything. So I think we did a pretty good job based on all the new faces, all the different stuff that we had to take into account this year. So I think not too bad by us.
This is an interesting question. It's not a question, but I have a question off of it. Gabe, 2022 ball hawk Duggar loading. So we got talking about this. I did a mock off season a couple days ago on my Instagram, and I seem to get a lot of hate for putting in Devin McCourty on the let walk / retire. Now, let me clarify.
I was one of those haters.
Going to let him walk. He's going to retire if anything.
I was one of those people. I was one of those people in your comments.
He's going to retire if anything. He's not going to. I'm not telling the Patriots to not re-sign him. I'm saying he's going to retire. But a lot of people were saying, is Duggar going to move to free safety? Someone said that they should move Jaylen Mills to free safety. I thought Jaylen Mills played good enough cornerback role this year that he could stay there, and we could possibly try Shaun Wade back at free safety because he struggled his last year in college at outside corner when he was a slot corner previously. Who do you think moves to that free safety role if McCourty does move on?
It's a great question. Like we talked about a while ago, Duggar played free safety in college. So maybe him, but I just don't think that's the best role for him. He's such an athletic freak by the line of scrimmage. He's meant to be there. Adrian Phillips, I would say AP's more of a free safety type, maybe. I think both those guys are better suited strong safeties, but Jaylen Mills, I think he's a strong safety too. So I think we pretty much have all strong safeties for the most part. It's going to be interesting. I mean, McCourty started off as a corner, so maybe there's a guy that Belichick feels comfortable as a corner that he thinks can transition into a safety. Mills was a safety in Philadelphia. He's played only corner here for us, but he's a versatile player. I think Duggar and Adrian Phillips are both versatile players, so I could really see any one of them. I think they could rotate snaps until they find what's best in training camp, or maybe even have one of the younger guys or draft a guy. But I think there's plenty of options. I hope McCourty doesn't leave along with Slater. On your post, you want to kick D-Mac out, Hightower, Jamie Collins, Slater, James White, Trent Brown. Like what are you doing? You just want to wait. Everybody gone?
Yes, I want them all gone. No, I literally think, I don't know how you bring back Jamie Collins again. Actually, I think that he's more likely to come back than Dante Hightower. In my opinion,
I'm fine with Hightower, Jamie Collins gone. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and
I just think that's a lot of veteran leadership. All those guys have been 100%. Patriots forever. So if you lose all those guys, who's your longest tenured Patriot left? I mean, what, David Andrews, Kyle Van Noy as your leaders on the defense? That's kind of scary, to be honest. I don't know. I think with the ways the defense struggled late in the year, and the Mac is still being young and being brought up, I think another year of D-Mac and Slater, if they want to stay, and even James White and even maybe Trent. I just think if you can bring these guys back as leaders, I know we want to get younger. I know we want to get faster, but I think the leadership is such a big aspect of bringing this team up, getting the Patriot way instilled in these guys. Once they're 2 years in, they know how things roll, they know how things work. And then if McCourty and Slater retire after that, then okay, they're gone, they're retired, and we at least have more players with more time in this system and used to these guys and how things are run.
Well, I don't know why you're worried, because Slater's just going to be special teams coach, and McCourty's going to coach the safeties. And then once Brady retires, he'll can be the OC for Mac Jones. Like, we're going to have them here. They're just going to be in coaches' roles. Like,
I wish. Slater said he wants I think he said he wants nothing to do with being in the coach's grind once he's out of the NFL. I think he's going to be doing stuff with family. I would love that though. Like, I know you're joking, but I would love that. That'd be great. I don't know about D-Mac. Maybe he gets more involved, but he kind of seems like the same situation. Same with Brady. All those guys are probably
Tom Brady's just going to let his wife make money, and then he'll just be a broadcaster on Sundays like Tony Romo is, and Peyton Manning. Like, he'll just have some role in that where he only has to do it one day a week, but he makes it still a couple $1 million.
I would love to see him do something like the Mannings are doing. That would be awesome. Even if I kick Eli out, have Peyton Manning and Tom
Yeah,
Brady do
get
that.
Eli out of here.
That would be awesome. That would be so fun to watch. The two of them with their chemistry. Anytime I see them on, like, when he went on the Peyton's Places and stuff like that, those two are funny together. They got good chemistry. So I would love to see them do something together. Two of the most brilliant NFL minds in NFL history at the quarterback position. That's just knowledge upon knowledge every time you turn on the TV with that. So that would be fun. That would certainly be fun to watch.
For sure. And then last question here before we get into game picks. Gabe asks a very tough question. Out of these 7 or 8 targets here
that we're all getting this offseason.
Yeah. Who is Matt going to target? Who's going to be his favorite one? Like, Ridley's good. Michael Thomas can run slants. Jameson Williams coming off an ACL will be good. Mechie, DK, Chris Godwin. Like, who does he throw to the most out of these 8 guys that he just mentioned?
I'd have to go with Gunnar Olszewski, to be honest. I just think he's really gonna break out next year. Gunnar Olszewski and Ryan Izzo are gonna be the two that actually could probably combine for more than the rest of these guys combined catches wise. So I think that's gonna be my pick. No, if I had to pick, this is actually a good question. If you had to pick one of those receivers, keeping in mind the contract and all that stuff, who would you pick to add to the Patriots?
Oh gosh, my top 3 would be
actually all right. Actually, take Devontae out because I think he's in a different category than all these guys. So take Devontae out because he's.
So I've never really been a fan of Allen Robinson. I think that if he's our option, I'm gonna take him. But if I'm going my top guys here, I think the Calvin Ridley trade is gonna be a little too steep for our asking price. You're probably gonna have to get rid of a first and someone else. That most likely means you're not bringing back JC Jackson. That's the same with Chris Godwin. Unless there's ways around it, you trade Aguilar or something, and you can keep that. So my number 1 would be Chris Godwin, if you can make that work. And then after that, Jameson Williams or Mechie in the first or in the second. Mechie probably in the second, Williams in the first. You can still keep your picks, draft other guys, and then Calvin Ridley would be my 4th there just because of the asking price I think that Atlanta will be wanting to and the off-field issues that he has.
I agree, especially if you can get Chris Godwin for a bargain after his ACL. He probably would have gone for $20 million a year. Now maybe he's more in the $16-17 million range just because of that injury. You never know. So Chris Godwin would be my top one as well. I think, like we talked about, he's such a perfect fit in this system. I think he'd be a great weapon for Mac. I agree with you. Right after that, Jameson Williams for me, John Mechie, and then Ridley, Michael Thomas, I guess, DK. That'd be my rankings. I just think DK doesn't, as great as DK Metcalf is, and he's not N'Keal Harry. He's much more athletic, great, better route runner, better separator, better 50-50 ball receiver. But I feel like a lot of these other guys fit more of the Patriots scheme than a DK Metcalf does. So that's why he would be my last one, just for like scheme fit wise.
The problem is none of these guys are your prototypical Patriot receiver like this guy. No one looks like this. This is exactly what you want if you're a New England Patriot fan, and none of those guys look like that. So I don't know if I want any of them, honestly.
You know who does look like that?
Oh gosh, are you gonna pull up a picture? Or are you gonna tell me? He's yes.
We go.
He's the next one.
We go. Tell me that's not Julian Edelman right there.
As I'm saying,
even Edelman had the long hair. Edelman had the long hair early too. It's pretty much the same thing.
Yes, it's bound to happen. So, Gabe, imagine the Izzo cast. Holy shit, yeah. Ryan Izzo commenting every Thursday night game, critiquing what could be elite tight end play. Yeah, that would definitely improve Thursday night views because the games suck anyways. So, oh my gosh, it's a spitting image.
It's the same player.
If you put number 80 on there, I don't know that's Julian Edelman. That's just Gunner for me.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying,
That's crazy. So, all right, well, let's get in it. Do you have the spreads?
I sure do.
Our records?
Yes. So last week we both went 2-2 on our picks. That puts us at the year. My spread predictions, my record is 52-33. Jace, you are 44-41. So both positive on the year. You got 3 games left in the season to make up 8 games or more record wise. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be an uphill battle. You're going to have to probably do pretty good to tie it up, but there's always a chance. There's 3 more games.
Oh, there's a chance. Trust me. The only reason you're winning is because you keep scoring. I haven't been, keeping up on it. So probably slipped in an extra win for you every week for the past 8 weeks. That's how you're ahead of me.
That's actually, you caught me red-handed. So actually, instead, how about you go through every video and you recount all of them to make sure we have the same numbers and that everything's all lined up and correct. And then
it's probably flipped. I probably have 52 and you have 44. That's what it is. I'm going to go catch you.
That's what it is. Spend the next 8 hours doing that and let me know. Let me know if I was right or not.
Okay, I will.
You missed one. You missed one of them.
I have 43. I promise you.
So that's funny. All right. So first game, we got the Bengals at the Chiefs. Chiefs -7. What you got on this one?
Oh, geez. Give me the Bengals. I mean, I think both of them have I'm not saying to win, but give me them to cover that. I think it was a close game, and I still think I'm going to favor Kansas City on winning this game, but I just think Joe Burrow and the Bengals are rolling, and they can keep up with that offense of Mahomes. I don't think that they can slow him down, but I think that Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, guys like that they can go in there and give them another close game. Hopefully they win, but I think that they cover 7 points in the AFC Championship game is kind of a lot in my mind.
I gotta agree with you, Gabe. Here, you're right.
Well, that's why we wanted Mac Jones over Cam Newton. Remember,
yes, that's exactly why. Yeah, I can't believe that was a real media story. Like what? Like for real, dude.
You Bostonians, like us people on the West Coast aren't like
okay.
That. It's you East Coasters. Dude.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, the Utah people are much better than the Bostonians.
There might not be a black person within 50 miles of my house. Just kidding. There definitely is because I have a ton of buddies. But yeah. So.
Yeah, but hey, Danny Amendola, Edelman, Wes Welker,
Chris
we need to
Hogan.
find one of those guys. Chris Hogan. Yep. So, I mean, Gunner's clearly not the guy, unfortunately. He might not even be here next year. We'll see if they tender him or not. But going back to the picks, I agree. I'm going to take the Bengals to cover the spread, Chiefs to win. I think it's probably going to be it's a pretty solid spread. I think it'll be pretty close to this, but I'm going to take the Chiefs to pull this one off and get a little revenge. It's at their place. That stadium is rocking, especially in the playoffs. So I'm going to take the Chiefs to win, Bengals to cover.
Wait, time out. Last week, did you go look at the receiver I told you about that I said was the next Julian Edelman for the Patriots if they drafted him?
Yes, I did.
Here he is, baby. Britton Covey.
This
dude's like played 5 years of college and he served a 2-year church mission. So he's like, he'll be 25 entering the draft. But here he is.
So if anybody is concerned about the wide receiver position, we can have a 35-year-old guy from Utah who's been in college 14 years, and he's going to solve our problem for half a season, and then we'll have to find a new receiver next year.
He will come in and he'll return punts for the first 2 years, and then he'll be great for us and for the next 5, and then he'll retire at 55 peacefully. But there you go. That's the answer to all of our problems. I'm just saying right now. When it's a 7th round or 6th round pick, probably not then. But when you see a free agent signing after the draft of Britton Covey, just remember this clip. That's all I'm saying.
This is the actual replacement right here. Let me.
Gabe, Covey inspires me for real. 25 entering the draft gives me hope. Hey, I got 4 years, man. I got to get traded. I'm still 21, so Slade Bolden.
That's the guy. We're drafting John Mechie and Slade Bolden, and we're getting the Alabama trio back. That's what's going to happen right here. That's the guy.
Yep. No, Britton Covey, I watched the dude since high school, so bring him home. Bring him to the Patriots.
He'll be in his prime. He's still on a rookie contract. Yeah. He'll also be out of his prime on his rookie contract because he'll be 45 years old.
He'll be in for the first 2 years and out for the last 2 of his rookie deal.
Jeez. Yeah. That's a great plan. Oh boy. That's funny. All right. Next one we got Niners at Rams. Rams -3.5. Also keep in mind this is at the Rams stadium, but it's also kind of the Niners stadium apparently. So
wait, that is the dumbest thing. I can't believe that they did that and restricted tickets for outside of LA.
They're
And
now selling them.
Good.
They're now
They
selling them,
should.
but they closed it off for the first like few days. It's
The
kinda,
funny thing is,
kind of
and I
cheese.
was seeing a ton of it on social media, is like people don't realize that the Niners are still the most popular team in all of California. So the Rams, I mean, they came from St. Louis. They started in LA, but they probably lost a lot of fans. And then when they came
Yeah.
back, they gained some back, but it doesn't matter. But I'm going to go with the Rams here. I think that, it's time for Stafford to get through, and that pass rush, and same with the Niners. The Niners have a great pass rush, but I think you can get to Jimmy G a lot more than you can get to Matt Stafford mentally and making mistakes. So I've never really trusted Jimmy G, and I think he's been carried by his defense and rushing attack this year or this postseason, and I think it ends with the Rams. I think they get over the hump because I think they're 0-6 in their last 6 games against the Niners, but I think that they pretty much get 2 home games right here, and you might see another home team go into the Super Bowl.
That's my concern is Niners kind of own the Rams. But I think the Rams are too talented. They're playing too well. I mean they blew the game to the Niners a couple weeks ago. They should have blown the game probably to the Bucks if they didn't play the stupidest defense I've ever seen in my entire life and put Cooper Kupp one-on-one with Antoine Winfield. That was not smart. But they're here. I think the Rams win, but I feel a lot less confident about the Rams than I do the Chiefs. If the Niners really take over the stadium and their defense starts playing like they did against the Packers and they get some contributions from special teams and stuff like that, I think the Niners, like we said, could make a run. And I think that's real. But I've seen too many mistakes from Jimmy G. They got a couple of guys banged up. Trent Williams is banged up a little bit. Deebo Samuel is a little bit banged up. Everybody's banged up at this point in the year. But I just think the Rams defense and offense, they've got too many talented players. They're stacked. They're a super team, and they should be in the Super Bowl. That was the expectation with all the picks they gave up, all the players they traded for, all the money, everything. Von Miller, Stafford, OBJ, all these guys, they should be here, and I think they're going to get there. So I'm going to take the Rams to win. I don't love the cover, but I'm going to go cover. I don't love it. I really don't. I think it could be a 3-point game. So 3.5 is tough, but I guess I'll take them to cover even though I don't love it.
All right. Well, I'm hoping for a Bengals whoever. Honestly, out of the NFC, I really don't care. It would kind of pain me to see Jimmy G get there, but then again, I kind of will cheer for him.
You know what wouldn't pain me about that though is that
what?
Mac Jones is already better than Jimmy G, and if Jimmy G can make it to a Super Bowl, there's no reason Mac Jones can't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also another good thing is the Dolphins have the 49ers pick this year. So the better the Niners do, the worse the Dolphins first round pick gets, and I'm okay with that. So I'm rooting for the NFC to win. Or the Bengals. I don't want to see the Chiefs win another one. It looks like they're gonna based off their play, but if anybody can stop them, I feel like it's the Niners. I mean the Rams with their defense and if Stafford plays well. So I'm rooting for the NFC, but I'd be okay with the Niners winning because that just means this whole conversation. If Jimmy Garoppolo wins the Super Bowl and Nick Foles can win the Super Bowl, there's no reason that Mac Jones can't win the Super Bowl. So that's my 2 cents.
For sure. Well, that's it for us. I think that after this episode, wrapping up the season, and possibly once the Super Bowl's over, especially, we'll be getting into more draft talk on here, free agency,
Can't wait.
prospects. So be on the lookout for that. But thank you guys for tuning in. We're planning on being live every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern time, so you can plan on that pretty much every week. So look for that for all your NFL draft coverage, and keep tuning in. We appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to try to do some short videos as well outside of the podcast. So we'll touch on some topics. Later this week, we should have a video coming out on our thoughts on the Brady situation, if he's going to retire, some top targets in the draft for us to focus on, all that stuff. So we're still going to be doing the podcast, and we'll have some mock drafts, way too early mock drafts probably coming up in the next couple of weeks and all that good stuff. So I can't wait to start digging into the off season and all this stuff. Patriots season's over. So time to flip the page, get ready for the next season and get ahead on these prospects and try to lay out the best offseason plan. I think we'll probably both at some point lay out an entire offseason plan that I have, that you have, and and who we would sign, all that good stuff. So it's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to the offseason. I think you guys are going to like it, and you guys will be able to hop in and give your 2 cents on mock drafts and player prospects and all that stuff. So it's going to be fun. I'm excited for it. We'll have some videos coming out soon. And thank you guys for watching again. Subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff. Thank you guys for the support. We appreciate it, and we will see you guys next time.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Patriots Drive podcast. Follow us on social media to stay up to date with all things New England Patriots. Make sure you tune in to the next episode and check out patriotsdrive.com for more great content.
We're on to Cincinnati.